Union. Mr. Fuad, President of Ethiopia Youth Council. Minister, State Legislative Assembly Member, Secretary General, Chairperson, President of National Youth Council, Senior Diplomats and Representatives, and Youth Participants. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a warm welcome to all delegates, distinguished guests, and esteemed leaders to this session. We now gather for a very meaningful segment, the special lecture titled Bridging Civilization, Building Future, Strengthening Afro-Malaysia Partnership for Shared Prosperity. This session symbolizes our shared commitment to deepen dialogue, expand cooperation, and build bridges of understanding between Africa and Malaysia for the benefit of the young people and for the future of two regions. Before we proceed to the special lecture, we will begin with opening remarks by Mr. Muhammad Izzat Afifi bin Haji Abdul Hamid, the President of Malaysian Youth Council. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Salam sejahtera. Excellency the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, Excellencies, distinguished guests, leaders, and esteemed guests. Allow me to begin by expressing our deepest appreciation to our gracious host, the Ethiopian Youth Council, and of course, the Pan-African Youth Union. The warm generosity and brotherhood extended to us since our arrival in Addis Ababa evokes a profound historical parallel, one that resonates deeply with most of us when 1,000 years ago, when the early Muslim fled persecution in Mecca, it was here in Abyssinia they found refuge under the protection of the king of Abyssinia. The Negus welcomed them with justice, compassion, and our unwavering respect for human dignity. Today, we are humbled to experience the same spirit of hospitality from the youth of Africa, reminding us that this land has long been a beacon of tolerance, solidarity, and moral leadership. Your Excellencies, it is therefore a particular honor to gather here with you today as we reaffirm the bonds between Malaysia and Africa. Bonds built not only on diplomatic relations, but more on shared values that have endured across centuries. Malaysia and nation of Africa are united by a common historical struggle. The struggle against colonial domination and determination to build nations anchored in freedom, dignity, and justice. Its shared history is not a burden, it is a source of strength. As the late Kwame Nkrumah, President and the Lion of Ghana, once said, we face neither east nor west, we face forward. And today, we, the youth of Malaysia and Africa, chose to face the future together. Excellencies, special lecture by Your Excellency reflects our collective commitment to elevating youth as strategic partners in that endeavor. It signals a renewed agenda of South-South collaboration, one rooted in mutual respect, shared ownership, and the belief that developing nations can rise stronger when we rise together. Whether in digital innovation, agriculture, green technology, cultural diplomacy, or youth entrepreneurship, the opportunities before us are immense, and the youth between both regions no longer want to be the passenger, but instead to be the leader who lead the future. Datuk Seri, Excellencies, on behalf of the Malaysian Youth Council, the Pan-African Youth Union, and the Ethiopian Youth Council, I wish to record our sincere gratitude for your steadfast support of youth empowerment at both regional and global levels. Your leadership has consistently championed justice, inclusivity, and the full realization of young people's potential. Your presence here today is a testament to your belief that youth are not merely beneficiaries of policy, they are core architects of the future. For the audience understanding, it is important for me to note that the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, once served as the seventh President of the Malaysian Youth Council. During the 70s, he led Malaysia's youth and student movement into what is widely regarded as the golden era of youth and student activism in the country. An era which I and my team I still try to revive it. I adopt it, Datuk Sri. Datuk Sri and Excellencies, we remain committed to advancing a deeper and more strategic Afro-Malaysia relationship. The youth of Malaysia stands ready to strengthen cooperation with our African brothers and sisters, ensuring that our shared aspirations translate into meaningful opportunities where no young person in any country is left behind. In closing, I once again extend our heartfelt appreciation to Your Excellency for gracing this occasion and for your continuous support for the global youth movement. May today's gathering mark a significant step towards a more connected, more collaborative, and more prosperous Afro-Malaysia future. Thank you, Excellency. Terima kasih. Amasigano. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Izzat Afifi. So now we continue with the opening remarks by Mr. Fuad Gena, President of Ethiopian Youth Association. Please welcome.
Your Excellency Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia, Your Excellency Dr. Pai, Minister of Women and Social Affairs of Ethiopia, Your Excellency Ahmed Benin, Secretary General of Pan-African Youth Union, Your Excellency Maud Izzat Afifi H. Abdullahi Hamid, President of Malaysian Youth Council, distinguished government officials, Youth Council chairpersons, esteemed delegates, and my fellow leaders from across Africa and Asia. Good afternoon, all. It is a profound honor to stand before you today after what has been a deeply inspiring and truly productive morning session of the Afro-Malaysian Youth Forum. On behalf of the Ethiopian Youth Council, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to each of you for the depth of your engagement, the openness of your discussion, and the commitment you have shown toward building a future for our youth. Today, we have not simply participated in a forum. We have shaped a vision of partnership rooted in mutual respect, cultural exchange, innovation, and shared prosperity. A vision where Africa and Malaysian youth work side by side, not as a distant partner, but as collaborators united by common purpose and collective ambition. Excellency Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, our discussions this morning have reaffirmed a simple truth: the challenges and opportunities of our time demand cooperation. As the world undergoes rapid technology change, climate pressures, shifting economies, and evolving social landscapes, youth are not standing on the sidelines. We are leading. We are designing solutions. We are pushing boundaries, and we are proving that young people are indispensable drivers of development. This forum has shown us that when African and Malaysian youth come together, ideas become clear, possibilities become bigger, and partnerships become stronger. Your Excellency Prime Minister, your presence with us today is a powerful demonstration of Malaysia's commitment to the youth empowerment in international cooperation. It sends a message that resonates deeply that youth are not the future leaders. We are leaders of today. Distinguished guests, the success of today's forum is only the beginning. It marks the opening of a long-term partnership that will grow, evolve, and inspire. And with great optimism, I'm pleased to share the Ethiopian Youth Council is ready and deeply honored to work with our brothers and sisters in Malaysia to convene the next Afro-Malaysia Youth Forum in Malaysia. We believe that this exchange of hosting responsibilities strengthens our collaboration, deepens our understanding of one another, and cements the Afro-Malaysia Youth Partnership as model for South-South cooperation. To the youth in this room, you are the architect of this new chapter. You are the bridge between the continents, and you carry the dreams of millions who look to you for leadership, for courage, and for innovation. Let's continue to challenge outdated assumptions about the youth. Let's continue to lead boldly, think fearlessly, and collaborate generously. Thank you for your ideas. Thank you for your commitments. Thank you for your belief in what we can achieve together. Welcome once again to Addis Ababa. And as we look ahead, we say, see you next year in Malaysia for the next chapter for the Afro-Malaysia Youth Corporation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fuad, for your insight. So now we continue with the opening remark by Mr. Ahmed Benning, Sichong, the Secretary General of Pan-African Youth Union. Please welcome.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the Prime Minister, Excellency, Minister of Protection, Ministers of States, President of Malaysia, President of the Malaysia Youth Council, President of Ethiopian Youth Council, Presidents, National Youth Councils from across the continent, Togo, Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, President Kenya, Uganda, Vice President, Pan-African Youth Union, Tabora. I wish, first and foremost, thank His Excellency the Prime Minister for making time to engage the young people of Africa as part of his visit. This demonstrates your commitment and understanding that young people are not just the future, they are their drivers, resilience, and prosperity. The Prime Minister was part of the National Youth Council of Malaysia. He has also been part of the World Assembly of Youth and also the Islamic Youth Federation. That means that His Excellency the Prime Minister is part of the constituency seated here in this room. And Excellency, we are not surprised that based on your experience and understanding of the youth development ecosystem, that you chose to engage with us today. But as Secretary General of the Pan-African Youth Union, this meeting is extremely important. It is important because the drivers of cooperation and collaboration between Africa and Malaysia is only possible if the young people in this room believe, understand, and associate with it. And Excellency, the young people of Africa are ready and willing to collaborate with the young people of Malaysia and the government and people of Malaysia to build a truly progressive, prosperous, and resilient South-South cooperation. Excellency, Malaysia has been at the fore in striving for a South-South cooperation that delivers meaningful dividends to our people. At the heart of this South-South cooperation that we strive for, a South-South cooperation that's capable of delivering jobs for young people, a South-South cooperation that's capable of putting our countries as equals on the global stage, and a South-South cooperation that's amplifying our aspirations as Africa, Asian, and the rest of the world. That multilateralism cannot be the sole reserve for certain countries. That global dividend should be equally shared among our countries. And Excellency, the African young people would want to collaborate with the Malaysian people in the space of NVTI, vocational and technical training. I believe that this is one sector that the people of Malaysia have done very well for themselves. Excellency, Malaysia hosts the World Assembly of Youth, which you served so many years back. The commitment of the government and people of Malaysia to host a convening platform for young people for over 70 years does not only demonstrate your understanding for young people, but your commitment. And Excellency, we wish to call on you that the World Federation of Youth, the World Assembly of Youth should be revitalized. It should be given the needed attention so that the young people across the world would be able to gather year on, year out to discuss the pertinent issues that affect us. The second issue that we want to touch on, Excellency, is that Malaysia is just handing over as the chair for ASEAN. There's the conversation to start a business forum. We as Africans would want to associate with that idea of working alongside our colleagues in Malaysia, because Africa is open for business. Africa has the largest trade regime currently in the world. We have the Africa Continental Free Trade, a market of 1.4 billion people. What it means is that collaboration between Malaysia and Africa would open doors, create jobs, and give an opportunity for both young people in Malaysia and young people in Africa to be prosperous. On this basis, I want to thank His Excellency for engaging with the young people of Africa, and our commitment to collaborate with the young people of Malaysia remains unyielding. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmad Benning. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite Her Excellency Dr. Ergogi Tesfaye, Minister of Women and Social Affairs of Ethiopia, to deliver opening remarks. Please welcome.
Your Excellency, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, it's a great honor to have you, Your Excellency, here amongst us. And I just would love to extend our heartfelt thanks for your commitment to come here as a part of your visit. Please join me thanking His Excellency. Your Excellency Ahmed Benning, Secretary General of the Pan-African Youth Union, distinguished Malaysian government higher officials, Youth Council, chairpersons, esteemed delegates from different African countries. I just would love to say good morning to you all. I think it's still morning. Yes. It is a great honor to address this distinguished forum here in Addis Ababa, the city that symbolizes Africa's unity, diplomacy, and belief in a shared future. On behalf of the government of Ethiopia and the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs, I warmly welcome Your Excellency once again, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, and all distinguished guests, and particularly young people from Malaysia, whose presence strengthens the significance of this moment. Today's Afro-Malaysia Youth Forum is an affirmation of deeply important message, that is, youth cooperation is emerging as one of the most powerful drivers of global development, diplomacy, and long-term peace and security. The world is now changing rapidly, and with that change comes the need for new leadership, new creativity, and a new partnership. This gathering brings these three very important things together. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is on the rise, with a population projected to reach over 2.5 billion by 2050, and with more than 70% of the population under the age of 35. Africa is becoming the world's most significant demographic force. In the same regard, Ethiopia reflects this reality. Our young people from the backbone of our economy, our social system, and our national aspirations. Malaysia, on the other hand, offers a complaining store, one of steady transformation, technology advancement, a strong educational system, and strategic investment in human capital. These two realities, Africa's demographic potential and Malaysia's development experience, create fertile ground for a partnership built on mutual advancement. This forum is not simply a ceremonial event. It is a strategic platform where we can look honestly at the challenges of our youth that they are facing and explore practical solutions grounded in international cooperation. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Ethiopia recognizes that youth development is not merely about programs, it is about system, it is about access and equality. Ethiopia's youth are very talented, as like other African youths, and resilient, visionary, and hardworking. But they also confront real challenges and barriers. These are unemployment, limited access to finance, digital gaps, climate-related vulnerabilities, and all. To address this, the Ethiopian government is rigorously working in youth-friendly social services and employment. We are working in strengthened youth personal development centers, where we want also collaboration with the Malaysia's government in order to enhance youth power in Ethiopia and in Africa at large. Malaysia's advancement in innovation, green growth, is a very important thing that we want to also collaborate. So at the end, I just would love to say, allow me, Your Excellency, to highlight that Ethiopia remains deeply committed to strengthen youth empowerment through both national initiatives and international cooperation. We welcome opportunities for youth exchange programs, joint innovation hubs, capacity building initiatives, and cooperation and research. We also welcome Malaysia's interest in partnering with African Youth Network, including the Ethiopian Youth Council. Finally, I just would love to say what we began here today in Addis Ababa is not an end dialogue. And with your permission and blessing, Your Excellency, the next forum, Afro-Malaysia Forum, is going to be in Malaysia, if you bless us. And we are going to have a great opportunity to strengthen our partnership accordingly. I thank you. Thank you. Terima kasih. Thank you.
His Excellency, thank you for the insightful remarks. So now, without further ado, we now come to the most important highlight of this afternoon. It is our highest honor to invite Honorable Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, to deliver the special public lecture on bridging civilization, building future, strengthening Afro-Malaysia partnership for shared prosperity. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning, afternoon. Minister Goge, ministers, youth leaders from Pan-African Youth, and Ethiopian Youth Council and Malaysian Youth Council, Izzat, and friends, I would say children, sons and daughters. It's an important departure from a normal diplomatic encounter because with the invitation of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed for me to visit here, and then his kind support allow me to engage with the youth, not only from Ethiopia, but also from Africa, and the coordination by the Malaysian Youth Council. Now, let me share with you some of my observations about Africa. You know, we grew up in the 60s, 70s, looking at the great visionary leaders of Africa. Ahmad Sekou Toure, Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, and of course, Mandela. These were people of, they are visionary. They love their countries, their nations. They reject colonialism, the subjugation, exploitation, harlom parlom of men by men. And they clamor for independence to bring back dignity for their people. And in many ways, they were successful, although they represent an ideal, not for Africa only, but also for us. I was a young student in Malaysia, looking at this development with such awe. Leaders who suffered the enormities of colonialism and imperialism, and who believe in their own history and culture, the strength of their people, there is who initiate this understanding and the reconstruction of African history, not from the viewpoint of the colonial masters, but to see the enormous contribution, culture, civilization that Africa has produced. Izzat mentioned about the initial encounter between Islam and the Orthodox Church here. Negus, or we call it Maharaja Najashi, that shows the level of tolerance, not only tolerance, the appreciation of the values of humanity and justice, the protection to those who have been oppressed elsewhere in the Arab world. And then, of course, here you're familiar with the Battle of Adwa, which epitomizes the struggle against Italian colonialism, but symbolizes colonialism, subjugation of people, denigration of human values, the exploitation of communities, the superiority complex. And some of you may be familiar. Of course, Adwa does not represent only Ethiopian revolution, but it shows a showcase of the tenacity, the resolve of a people who will not surrender and subjugate to the foreign power. What have we learned? Well, we have to learn. I'm not suggesting that many people learn. You see, the colonial mentality continues. And if you have an opportunity to read Frantz Fanon, the great fighter for justice and anti-colonial colonial rule, French surgeon, I think originally from Caribbean, and went to support the Algerian War of Independence. His classic work, was the pedagogy of the oppressed. The problem about colonialism, which the youth must reflect seriously, is not just an subjugation of the people and come independence is done. No, the colonial mentality sometimes persists with the colonial masters and those who have been colonized. That is precisely the reason why we see many independent countries from Asia, Africa, Latin America behave more like colonial masters than true champions of freedom and justice and independence. That is a challenge. You, the youth, must deliberate, decide for yourself whether we want to continue this sort of mindset or colonized. What he said, I think Franz Fanon, and then followed by one of his admirers, Malik Ben Nabi, he said the problem of colonoscibilité is a French word. Colonoscibilité is not just colonization, but the attitude, the surrender by independent leaders, by Africans, Asians, Malaysians, whatever, who openly reject colonialism but become subjugated and colonized. The mind is colonized. What is white, what is impressive, what the policies which you accept and adopt must be dictated by the West, Paris or London or Washington, whatever. Hardly any understanding of the society, history, and culture. And this is going to struggle. I mentioned the African Union this morning about the effort of our 10 leaders, which includes Nyerere Nkrumah, supported by Jawaharlal Nehru from India and Zhou Enlai from China. When they went to Bandung, Indonesia, under Sukarno, who organized the Afro-Asian Conference of 1955. You see, these leaders, be Zhou Enlai or Nehru or Nkrumah or Nyerere or Sukarno, they were visionaries. They then, in 1955, knew their independence would be rendered meaningless. We don't work together, strengthen our resolve, and not be totally independent and choose to surrender to the whims and fancies, the dictates of the others. Of course, we have to engage in trade. As I've mentioned, many of you are aware, that Malaysia is a trading nation. Our export to the United States annually is $50 billion. We're expanding investments and trade with China. ASEAN is, of course, very cohesive force. Fortunately, ASEAN is one of the most peaceful regions in the world and fastest growing economy. You see, peace is prerequisite when we talk about growth and economic development. So, I'm not suggesting in any way that we work only with among ourselves, but I'm suggesting, therefore, that whilst opening up trade, investments, collaboration, Africa, Asia, Latin America, we must continue to engage in this global world. But the mindset is important. You see, globalize means modern, the term seems to be like a modern invention. But what about all these great cultures and civilizations in Africa? Were they not global? Even Malaysia under the Malacca Sultanate was very global. The Chinese, Admiral Zheng He, with his 1454, if I'm not mistaken, 1540, yeah, something like that. I mean, travel all around the world. But what we know and appreciate is only Magellan. That is why the first prerequisite to be truly independent is to free our minds and our soul. And to understand that peace and development are essential features to ensure growth and security of our nation. So there's a lot to learn and to unlearn. Governance is a major issue. Bringing up to the second point, right? It's understanding, take pride in ourselves, must be to reconstruct our history, because we use texts determined by the others. We study from the professors in the West. There's nothing wrong with it. But be selective, be intelligent, not slavish. We have fought against slavery. We've fought against colonialism. We should not be slavish in our mentality and attitude. Okay? Then we should not repeat the excesses of the rest. Why are we, or why did we and our forefathers and mothers fought hard against colonial masters? Because we reject that display of arrogance. We reject that condescending attitude towards others. We reject that the wealth of a country be absconded to enrich the few. We reject corruption and abuse of power. That's why we clamored for independence. But as Frantz Fanon said, it's not to replicate the excesses of the past. It's to ensure that the reform and the changes continue based on these ideals. And of course, I'm excited meeting the youth, because I'm reminded and checked to be sure that you remain true to the principles and ideals. Because as you know, politics and power sometimes tend to drag you into practical realities. But it's always important to associate with youth idealism. And I'm a firm believer. I'm a great optimist. I've seen youth in action. First of all, to free the mind, to be more reasoned, more critical, to understand that without peace, nothing works. And to secure peace means some form of understanding and compromise is required. And once you have achieved that, then you have to really look at the issues of governance. We have, of course, to be sustainable, transform digital, to move towards AI, alternative energy, food security. But we never lose sight that we need values to protect the human. The deficit in the world in politics, I can say, from my limited experience, is the loss of values. Yeah. Injustices are being tolerated because of different color, or different religion, or different tribes. Oppression is tolerated, and we support those with power and wealth. So we're still back to the law of the jungle. There's no more question of rule of law. So this deficit must be addressed. And we want the young to be as committed and strong in their resolve, and courageous in their conviction to ensure that we will have a better Africa, better Asia, and better world. Notwithstanding the excesses that you find or hear from time to time. And Malaysia is, of course, a small emerging economy, but fortunately, I learned a lot from the ideals and the visionaries of African leaders, and I thought it would be of enormous advantage and benefit to Malaysian youth if we could continue to engage and talk about this. Youth rights, yes, and responsibilities, yes. The role to be able, as Mr. Ergoge mentioned about the new technology, training, opportunities, yes, we'll continue to do that. And inshallah, I will be able to engage with my friends in ASEAN, and probably by the time we meet in Malaysia, probably we extend Asia, Africa, and bring some ASEAN, Asian leaders, and probably one progressive Latin American youth. Because we will do that, and we stand to be corrected. As I've said, this sort of engagement is for you to also listen, reflect, but also to engage and critically assess and suggest and even criticize. I don't think a forum should be limited to be like a monologue. So thank you again. It's a great experience. And I see the faces of the young. They look very energetic. I'm sorry, I may sound a bit too serious and say this guy is coming to give a very serious lecture. No. I mean, I want to share with all sincerity what our forefathers have offered, what we have to dedicate ourselves to continue these ideas and not to allow the excesses to continue. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Right, that we open for Q&A session. Is it good? Okay, so wow, now we open the floor to Q&A. We will take only 2 questions from the floor. So yeah, please keep your question brief. Anyone?
Yes.
Please.
Thank you, Excellency. Just should be very visible. One, I want to really thank you. Your revolutionary spirit is almost as African as some of our stories here. My question is simple. The transition that Malaysia and many of the Asian countries made in the last 30 years in terms of development is astonishing. Where did the trigger come from that enabled Malaysia to keep up with the development pace, even when the population of young people was increasing and their demands in this globalized economy is also increasing? Thank you.
Well, we have our Malaysia or the region to have our own problems. I don't represent a view to give you a good positive story and propaganda. There are excesses too. There are issues, governance. Remember in the 90s when there was this impressive, phenomenal growth registered by many of the countries in Asia, including Malaysia. The World Bank then published a report, the East Asian Economic Miracle. Now, most leaders were excited. Of course, I was happy. I was finance minister at the time. But I thought this sort of narrative does not necessarily help, because we lull into some complacency and culture of contentment, whereas there are some serious issues we have to address. Issues of governance relating to corruption, relating to inequality between the poor and the rich. So that made me realize that whilst we're thankful that people do give this sort of recognition, there are issues we have to address. And these issues, if not addressed, will result in the decline of the nations. As you know, all these theories of cyclical theory of civilization, there are reasons why countries at times reach its pedestal, many reasons that causes a decline. And the main one is, of course, the loss of legitimacy, credibility due to corruption and ignoring the plight of the masses. So then I took that position. Well, I suffered in the process, given a long rest in the prison. But it's a time. Now it's time to move on and learn. What have we learned? That's why the importance of young leaders, youth leaders, and me included, though included not as young as it's a long time ago when I was young, I was telling minister, to then understand and have a grasp what causes us to move up and what are the issues confronting us. And the issues, of course, is poor policies at times. You become like some of the great leaders I mentioned, you see. They were great leaders, they were great nationalists, great revolutionaries, but sometimes their economic prescription led to poverty for the masses. So it is careful between engaging to be able to assess carefully and clarity of policies, economic, social, dealing with the excesses within the system, which led to this tendency to be, authoritarian and dictatorial leadership, and the allowing for abject poverty, the midst of plenty, and again, grinding poverty and corruption. So from that, then we move. So fortunately, as I said, ASEAN is really very peaceful region. There was, for example, some skirmishes between Cambodia and Thailand. A few people shot, and it became a big issue, which is good to my mind. You see, in some other countries, thousands killed, and well, it takes time to resolve. You see, there's a difference. And there was a consensus. All ASEAN countries, Seri Anwar, do something. We'll support you. So we did negotiate, and at least there is some ceasefire. And of course, it's working to resolve. How many shot? 2, 3 people shot, 5 injured, and became a big issue. Same like Myanmar. We continue to engage. At least it's not resolved. In the case of Myanmar, it's not resolved, but at least there is that apparent readiness to engage. There's some ceasefire in the sense that no continued atrocities inflicted upon minorities, religious minorities, or tribes. So, with peace, dividend, political stability is required, and the clarity of policies, and to address some of the flaws. We shouldn't be just thinking that, well, we have done the best. I go to anywhere in the world, they say, well, what great countries Malaysia is. And you become, full of yourself, and you'll be creating a new problem. So objectively see what needs to be done. And the humility is important. Humility is important in youth, because then you learn. That arrogance will result in you thinking that you know all the answers. You don't. I don't have all the answers. The humility to acknowledge my limitations and therefore learn as much as possible and listen and observe. Okay, Ethiopia developed much later, but there are many positive traits that I can learn. Okay? Of course, we can contribute in many ways too. So that is to my mind, the exception about these countries. We have to be, we have to rush. We have to better discipline, efficient civil service, leadership that understand the need and the urgency to work hard and to engage with the people, to appeal to them. They want to succeed. It's not just leaders, it's not just bureaucrats, it's the total resolve of the society. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Yama Bahurmai. Okay. Due to time constraint, I
How
think
about we
that.
give you one last question if they want to?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
yeah, please.
Yeah, the lady and then the Secretary General. Yes, yes. Difficult questions, your minister will reply.
Prime Minister, thank you so much for the special lecture. My question is that forums like this, most of the time, generate really brilliant ideas, but few of them actually turn into impactful initiatives. You're a man of great wisdom. What is your best advice in us in ensuring that this cooperation and this collaboration actually turns into lucrative long-term solutions and programs that can benefit our countries and the young people where we come from? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, again, I don't claim to have all the answers, but from my limited experience, having attending Youth Council, Way, and those days, United Nations set up Youth Advisory Group to the Secretary General of United Nations. I was one of the 12 sent to New York. We all had ideas, and everybody wants to submit beautiful resolutions. What is important is to itemize. Item number one, dialogue means what? What do we do? Practically, we say training. We need new forms of training, TVET and upskilling. What do we do? Which ministries? Whom should we insist? Which ministry to contact? What is done in the past? We say, okay, better understanding economic issues. What are the problems? I mean, that is, to me, an effective, meaningful resolution, not just standard. It's just getting leaders to focus on these issues and make sure that at least by the time we meet next year, the 10 issues resolved, 90 not yet, but at least there's some progress. Yes, please.
Mike, please.
Nobody dare say no to the Secretary General of Pan-African Youth. You see, actually we have extended our time, but because I know you don't never play around with the youth leaders. Yes.
Thank you, Excellency, for your kind opportunity. When you were elected, we were super excited because within the ecosystem, you were part of the youth ecosystem. You were part of WAY. WAY is being an institution that drives our integration. Malaysia is the current president of WAY, but it appears is dying under your presidency. We want to know from you what's the commitment of your government to revive WAY into a global platform for young people. And the second question, Your Excellency, African young people are willing to commit meaningful collaborations with Malaysia. Malaysia has got experience in NVTI, vocational and technical training. You have reasonable understanding of technology. We want to know from you, Excellency, what should we expect from your government and from the people of Malaysia in terms of collaboration in these areas? Thank you.
Thank you. Now, on WAY, yes, I did participate. I was an international committee member of WAY, but not many know the fact. Izzat didn't tell you that actually I resigned in protest because well, to share with you, because at that time, the United States were supporting some of the programs. But they insisted that we follow certain rules. For example, their mode of family planning and birth control. When they're married, then I'm not too interested about birth control. I'm joking. But then there are issues that you shouldn't raise. Because at that time, the Russians, at the time of Cold War, at the World Federation of Youth, I said, okay, we don't have issues. I mean, we want to engage with them, we engage. But the American thought that to be in way, you should not engage. And many of these friends, we should accept, particularly Secretary General at that time. Because I could not agree, I resigned. But that, notwithstanding that, doesn't mean that we should not support. But there was one episode now where it's more independent. African countries, Asian countries take a different view. We'll engage with the United States, we'll engage with China, we'll engage as an independent entity. Now, I've met the current leadership way, and I've discussed with them. Izzat is aware of that. But I said before we move, we should build this consensus. They should talk to leaders in Africa and Asia, many of the countries. How do we proceed? And I will give you the support. But I don't want to decide based on one or two views. I've said to them, you should engage. Izzat, here you engage with the African youth. What is the mechanism? What is the consensus in terms of the leadership, so that we can support. Please be assured that I'm ready to support. It doesn't cost us millions. We're not building a huge infrastructure. We're not a rich country, but we certainly can support having a proper conference, and then to be able to elect new leaders. It's clear, and to me, no conditions attached. I've learned the hard way. I mean, at that time, I'm talking about the 70s, the late 70s, to be able to be an international youth organization, be sponsored to travel elsewhere is a great thing. But, I blame the African leaders because they gave me that vision of integrity and dignity and independence. Reading Sekutore, Sekutore or Nkrumah Nyerere, dignity and independence at all cost. And suddenly they gave me these conditions. But now we're not imposing any conditions. Our only condition is that have a democratic forum, decide democratically, and focus on issues of interest to the youth. Thank you very much again.
All right, thank you so much, Ahmad Berherman, for the insightful sessions. So we believe all the participants learned a lot during these sessions. All right, at this time, we will proceed with a group photo session. We kindly invite the photographers to